Hello, welcome to the third in this series of videos on the AQA A-Level Paper 1 Computer Science Summer 2026 examination, the skeleton code and simulation. So watch the first video first. That goes without saying. That's the one where I talk you through the code. If you don't fully understand the code yet, that's a good place to start. We've done a little bit of validation on the second video, and we're going to do a little bit more validation on this video here. So this is the next fault. Okay, so we fixed the validation on the simulation number in the last video. So I'm just going to go ahead and select one there, and I want to inspect a cell. So let's pick row number 2 and column number 4. We know there should be a nest there, and there it is. Now, supposing I didn't put the correct row or column numbers in, and I'd put, I don't know, something else in. Let's try that. Let's put row number Q. And the program bombs out. Okay, so the reason it's bombed out, of course, here is that we've inputted a value which is an alpha character, a Q, a letter, and we're trying to convert that to an integer to put into this integer row here. And it's not going to work because Q isn't a number. It can't be converted to an int32. Okay. Let's just stop that program one more time and then we'll start again. Try that again. This time I'm going to inspect the cell. I'm actually going to put a number outside the bounds. So we know that the board size is 5 by 5. So if I put a 6 there and a 6 there, then again the program is going to collapse because we've got an index out of range error. 6 for the row and for the column are both out of range for this for converting this to the grid. The grid, if you remember, is a one-dimensional list, and it will have turned a value of what, 60, probably something like 36. I can't work it out verbatim, but it will create a value there that's outside the range of that grid. So what we need to do is do some validation on the row and column. Now, I've been working on this a little bit beforehand, so I've created, and I'm going to paste it in. So we need to look at this get cell reference here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in my new method in there. Okay, so there it is. We've got this new method called readInt in range. It's going to take a prompt, which is going to be get row number or whatever that's been passed to it, and we're going to pass over a minimum and a minimum and maximum value that we expect the input to be, and we're going to use the same trick that we did in video 2. We're going to set a Boolean value equal to false, and we're going to carry on going round that loop here until we get the correct input, which we're going to set to true when we get the correct input. So we're going to write the prompt, which we've inputted. We're going to get the input back from the user, which is the console read line, same as that console read line up there, okay? That one I mean. And we're going to put it into a string called input. We are then going to try and convert that input to a integer value. And we're going to use, instead of doing the convert int 32, we're going to do a int tryparse. So tryparse will try to convert it to an integer, but if it can't convert it to an integer, it will produce a Boolean value. It will produce a Boolean return of false. So if we make that true by putting that exclamation mark there, we're going to say console write line error, please enter a number, because that can't be a number because the tryparse has failed. Okay. Next, we're going to check to see if the value, which we've got from here, okay, from the tryparse, we're going to check to see if the value is within the range of a minimum or maximum value. If it is not in that range, we're going to output a message to say, please put the value within that range. If it passes that, and it passes that, then the last default output is we're just going to set valid equal to true and return the value from this tryparse here, which is an integer. So we're going to return an integer value back to where it was called, and we're going to call it from the get reference. So get reference then. So instead of having this here, we're going to have row equal to read int in range, and we're going to have that prompt enter row number, so that stays the same. Then we're going to have a value of 1 because the minimum value for these cells is always 1, and the maximum is likely to be 5, but we don't know it's going to be 5. So we're going to get something called max rows, which I haven't set up yet, but I will do. And we don't need that anymore. And we need to do the same for the column. And likewise, we don't need that anymore. That's been replaced because that's taken care of in this read int in range function or method. So we're just missing setting up these max rows and max columns. So we need to do that in main. So if I go up to main, so if you remember, this list of values here is created number 1 and number 2 are the number of rows and the number of columns. So all we need to do is, after those lists have been set up, here, max rows, would help if I put what it was first, int max rows equals simulation parameters 1 and int max columns, it was being so helpful there and I ignored it. There we go. Okay, so let's just line that back up since I've messed that up. So there we have the max rows and the max columns. What we now need to do is pass them over to this, because they're not passed over at the moment. So let's go ref int max rows, ref int max columns. So they're passed over. Okay, that matches up now. So go back to the main. We've got those values there. What we now need to do is pass them over to the get cell reference. Okay, so in the get cell reference, we need to pass over the minimum value ref max rows and ref max columns. And of course, we need to do that here as well. And it's helping us out there. And we also need to do it here as well. And I think that's all the instances of it. That's all the times it's called up. So let's give that a go and hope that it works. Okay, simulation number 1, inspect cell, enter row number, let's put a D in there, no, it wants a number, enter 6 in there, no, it wants a number between 1 and 5, enter 2, and it's now asking for the column number. We'll try a G there, we'll enter a 6, no, it wants a number between 1 and 5, we want 4, and there we go, we get the output. So it has worked, it has done the trick. So one last look at the code. Okay, So we've set up a new static int of read int in range. We're passing over the prompt, which is get row number, and we're sending over a minimum and a maximum value that we want to we want the range to be. Okay, the bool is set to false, so bool of valid is set to false this time until we get a valid output. An invalid output is where it's failed the tryparse because it's not a integer value. The output is put into value here. Otherwise, it checks the value is less than that or greater than the max, in which case we've got another error and we bomb out. The valid, of course, is still false and it keeps going round, except if it passes those two conditions, we get a valid true. Okay, we've called up the int in range here. We've set over the minimum value of 1 and the maximum of max rows. Max rows is passed to it as a parameter, and back up here, where was it passed over as a parameter? Okay, it was passed over as a parameter here of max rows and max columns, and also here and here in the get cell reference. And before that, we have got the values directly from the simulation parameters. And that concludes this video. So have a look through this code. Okay, see if you can follow how that works. Freeze frame the video to do that and have a go at that yourself. Okay, until the next video, see you then.